Have you ever looked back at a decision you made and just thought, what was I even thinking? Maybe it was that extra slice of cake when you were on a diet, buying something you couldn't afford, or procrastinating on a super important project. Well, you're not alone. It turns out our brains might actually be a little bit addicted to making bad decisions. And today we're going to dive into why that happens and what we can do about it. It all starts with a tiny, powerful chemical in your brain called dopamine. You've probably heard of it. It's often called the feel-good hormone. When you do something that your brain thinks is good for survival, like eating something delicious or achieving a goal, it releases a little burst of dopamine. This dopamine rush feels great, and it essentially tells your brain, hey, that was awesome, let's do that again. This is your brain's reward system in action. It is a fundamental mechanism that has helped humans survive for thousands of years by encouraging us to seek out things like food, water, and social connection. But here's the twist. This system, which was designed for our survival in a world of scarcity, doesn't always work perfectly in our modern world of abundance. Our brains haven't quite caught up. They still crave those dopamine hits, but now they can get them from things that aren't necessarily good for us in the long run. Think about it. Junk food, endless social media scrolling, online shopping sprees. All of these things can trigger a massive dopamine release, making us feel instantly gratified. This is where the idea of addiction comes in. Your brain doesn't really distinguish between a good reward and a bad one. It just knows what feels good right now. When you eat that sugary donut, your brain gets a dopamine surge. It doesn't care about your long-term health goals. It just registers the immediate pleasure. The same goes for hitting buy now on that gadget you don't need. The anticipation and the act of purchasing provide a quick, satisfying hit of dopamine. Your brain learns to associate these actions with pleasure and starts to crave them, pushing you to repeat the behavior. It's a short-term reward loop that can easily override our long-term rational thinking. This leads us to a fascinating concept called hyperbolic discounting. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. Our brains have a strong preference for immediate rewards over future ones, even if the future reward is much bigger. If I offered you $10 right now or $100 a year from now, which would you choose? A lot of people would take the $10 now. The immediate, certain pleasure is just more appealing to our brain's reward system than a distant, abstract one. This is why we choose the immediate pleasure of watching another episode on Netflix instead of the long-term benefit of getting a good night's sleep. We discount the value of the future reward. So our brains are basically wired for instant gratification. But that's not the whole story. Another major player in our bad decision-making is stress. When you're stressed, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought, planning, and self-control, takes a back seat. It's like the CEO of your brain goes on an unscheduled vacation. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's emotional and fear center, takes over. It goes into survival mode, looking for the quickest way to feel better and escape the stress. And what's the quickest way to feel better? You guessed it, a dopamine hit. So, when you're stressed, you're far more likely to reach for that comfort food, scroll mindlessly, or make an impulsive purchase. It becomes a coping mechanism, but one that often creates more problems down the line. And let's not forget about our cognitive biases. These are mental shortcuts our brain uses to make decisions more quickly. They're usually helpful, but they can also lead us astray. For example, there's the optimism bias, which makes us believe we're less likely to experience negative events than other people. This is why we might think, oh, I can text and drive just this once. I'll be fine, or I'll start my diet tomorrow. One more unhealthy meal won't hurt. We underestimate the risks and overestimate our ability to control the outcome. Then there's the confirmation bias, where we actively seek out information that confirms what we already believe and ignore anything that contradicts it. If you're considering a bad decision, your brain will conveniently find all the reasons why it's actually a brilliant idea. So, are we doomed to be puppets of our own brains, forever chasing dopamine and making choices we regret? Absolutely not. The first and most powerful step is simply being aware of these processes. Understanding why you're tempted to make a bad decision is half the battle. When you feel that pull towards instant gratification, you can pause and ask yourself, is this my rational brain talking, or is this just my dopamine system looking for a quick fix? One of the most effective strategies is the 10-minute rule. When you feel an urge to do something you know you'll regret, like eating junk food or making an impulse buy to yourself, wait just 10 minutes. During that time, do something else. Go for a walk, listen to a song, call a friend. Often, after just 10 minutes, the intense craving will have subsided, and your rational prefrontal cortex will have had a chance to come back online and talk some sense into you. This small delay creates a crucial gap between impulse and action. Another powerful technique is to make good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. This is all about designing your environment for success. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food in the house. Instead, have healthy snacks readily available. If you want to stop scrolling on your phone at night, leave it to charge in another room. By adding a little bit of friction to bad habits and removing it from good ones, you're working with your brain's natural laziness, not against it. You're making the right choice, the path of least resistance. And remember the importance of managing stress. Since stress hijacks our decision-making, finding healthy ways to cope is essential. This could be exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or talking to a friend. When you're less stressed, your prefrontal cortex stays in control, and you're much better equipped to make thoughtful, long-term decisions. If you're struggling with chronic stress or feel like your decision-making is consistently leading to negative consequences, it's always a good idea to reach out and talk to a mental health professional. They can provide tools and support to help you navigate these challenges. Ultimately, it's not about being perfect. We're all going to make bad decisions from time to time. The goal is to understand the why behind them. By recognizing the pull of dopamine, the trap of instant gratification, and the influence of stress, we can start to take back control. We can be the conscious architects of our choices, rather than just passengers on a wild dopamine ride. It's about making small, consistent changes that, over time, rewire our brains for better habits and a happier, healthier life. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a like and consider subscribing for more insights into how our minds work. Let me know in the comments what's one bad decision your brain is addicted to. See you in the next one.